such time it is identified, you don't pay tax on advance. Singapore law clearly says, particularly for hotel, till such time you identify the advance for that service, you don't pay tax. So we were hoping something like that will happen. Last week, this amendment came and they said, if you cannot identify for what purpose you have received an advance, you pay IGST at 18%. Okay, so again, see, look at the mindset. The mindset is that they do not care about what happens to state. You just pay IGST. And then, of course, what will happen? You paid IGST, later on you identify the transaction, you adjusted the advance against the final bill, and then you have to take the set off of the IGST paid against the actual tax which you will have to pay, CGST, SGST. What will happen? There is no mechanism for that. So you will have to file for maybe an IGST refund and then pay CGST, SGST on the bank pay services later on. So this is what has come last week. We got rattled once we saw that. And it's a huge process also. The process is the moment you get an advance, you will have to issue something called advance receipt vouchers to your customer who gives you an advance. And then report it in the GSTN. And then when you finally raise an invoice, match this advance receipt voucher with that invoice number. Only if it tallies, you will get the tax paid on advance adjusted against the CGST, SGST. So, great trail of document automated in the system have to happen, and if you miss anything, you'll lose all of the trail and lose the credit. So advance is very, very stringent. The only relaxation to the whole thing is if you are getting a deposit, there's a lot of difference between advance and deposit. A deposit is something which is non-refundable but not adjustable against supply. You take a performance deposit, you take a security deposit. So when you take a security deposit, generally it is for ensuring that the vendor does his job properly. Okay? It's a security for you. Similarly, performance. You tell him, okay, if you don't complete the work before such and such a date, I'll retain this performance deposit and then I will adjust or give you a liquidated damages or penalty or whatever. So these are not advances, mind you. These are not advances. The advances which you take against supply of goods and services, okay, which are adjustable or otherwise, that will be subjected to GST. So that's very important from time of supply point of view. Then of course the place of supply. Place of supply is very important because you and your system needs to understand what tax you need to pay on a transaction. You have CGST, SGST, or you have an IGST. So the moment a customer walks in, say from Delhi, a corporate customer who has an account with your hotel group somewhere, he walks into Mumbai, he stays there, and then you raise a bill to the Delhi customer. The room is provided in Mumbai, but you raise a bill because there is a corporate account. In that case, is it an IGST or CGST transaction? Is it a local transaction or interstate transaction? So there, as far as your particular service is concerned, there is a lot of clarity because the way in which the service is being provided, immovable property services. So the law says wherever the property is located, that will be the place of supply. And the property is located in Mumbai. Irrespective of from where the customer comes or irrespective of where you are raising the invoice to, it doesn't matter. The place of supply is Mumbai. Okay? So you are the supplier of services in Mumbai. The place of supply is in Mumbai. So the system will pick up CGST and SGST in the invoice. Okay? So can there be any situation where in a hotel service context, IGST is possible? There are possible scenarios, like as I told you, banquet services, or not banquet, outdoor catering, let's assume. So in Delhi region, you take it to Haryana, which is in a different state altogether. So in those situations, when you do, there can be an interstate billing. Your system should be able to pick up the appropriate tax code, IGST, and charge tax on it. Okay. So place of supply is relevant in that context. But one important aspect that can happen to your business is, so the customers, I told you in the beginning that in GST, employee related room rental services or food services or travel services can be considered to be taken for credit in the books of the employer. Okay. Then the employer will ask, how will I get the credit which you are going to charge me as GST? Because what happens is, you are in Mumbai, let's assume I am coming from Chennai. I don't have any place of business. I'm a businessman. I have an entity there in Chennai. So I come to Mumbai, stay in Mumbai. So you charge me a CGST and SGST. I cannot use the CGST and SGST of Mumbai for my business in Chennai. Okay? So it is called as credit pool. I term it as credit pools. It's credit islands. You have pools of credit in places of business from where you are procuring in that state. Unless you have a place of business to recover back, it becomes a cost to you. So I need to then have an office in Mumbai to get that credit. You cannot raise me an IGST invoice. You cannot. Law doesn't permit you. In which case, I have to somehow recover the GST which you are going to charge me, whether it is 28% or 18%. How will I do that? Then I need to plan to have an input service distributor registration in Mumbai, get the bills, take the credit, and raise an invoice from my Mumbai IGST branch to my Chennai office with the IGST credit. So I convert CGST, SGST credit to an IGST credit and take it to Mumbai. Okay, this is possible. Similarly, I can convert an IGST credit to CGST credit also. So that's permissible. So why I am saying this is, it is very relevant for your business, because your customer will, particularly corporate customer, will come and ask you, can you do this? Can we do this? How do we change the billing pattern? What should we be doing? If they know, they will tell you this is what you need to do. If they don't know, they will come and ask you what you are going to do. You need to have an answer for both. So you will tell, sir, I will raise a CGST, SGST invoice only. You have because generally most of the business will have to have people traveling to Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Pune or Chennai. Okay. So they need to necessarily open a depot in these places called IST depot, IST office, and then pass on the credit. So it is not a centralized, it is decentralized. So it is not like in GST everything becomes one, it becomes multiple. But from your point of view, this is very important. You need to plan that way so that the corporate customers can take credit, because otherwise the pricing goes for a toss. 28% or 18% which you charge, if it becomes a cost, he'll say, there's no big deal about GST because it is equally a cost to me as it is today. So that planning has to happen. So place of supply from that point of view is very, very important. And then valuation. So we have seen on what you pay tax, when you pay tax, and where you pay tax. Then on what value you need to pay tax is also very important. Okay. So it says on invoice value. Very simple. Whatever is your invoice value, on that you pay the tax, GST. So long as you are not raising the invoice on your own related party or on your own branch outside the state. So if it is not a related party, or if it is not your own branch for whom you are raising an invoice as a stock transfer invoice, it is on transaction value. Okay. Transaction value means any value, any price paid or payable for that transaction. Please bear this in mind, very important point. You can have today one rate, tomorrow another rate. Nobody can challenge you saying that yesterday you charged 1,000 rupees, today you are charging 800 rupees. How it is possible? Because it is called transaction value. Transaction to transaction, it can vary. But since your business operate on a tariff basis, on a declared published tariff basis, you may not be practically enjoying that benefit, because you give off-season, on-season tariff rates. So you stick to that tariff rates. But if you are not, It doesn't matter whether you charge today 5,000, tomorrow 8,000, day after tomorrow 11,000. You pay on all of those things so long as it is at arm's length, meaning you are not dealing with a related party and there is nothing hidden below for that 5,000 rupees or for that 7,000 rupees. 5,000 is 5,000, 7,000 is 7,000 and 11,000. If that be so, then you can pay 5, 7, 11, 18 or 28%. 28%, not 18, sorry, because we talked about 5,000. So this is called transaction value. So it doesn't matter that you have to stick to a particular, nobody will come and challenge you saying, no, yesterday you charged this, today you cannot charge this. So long as you are permitted to charge as per your own declared tariff. Because you have other problem of luxury tax and all, but we'll have to see what will happen to all of those procedures. So that is the basis of valuation. But the other important thing is, I told you GST is not a tax on tax. And it is going to eliminate cascading and all those stuff. The high funda which we talked. But actually it is not going to. If you have any other tax which you have paid, any other tax other than CGST, SGST, IGST or compensation cess, what could be any other tax? For example, liquor. On liquor you pay VAT, of course liquor is not a good example. You take say mandi tax on something. On that if you have to charge GST, if 100 rupees is the material value, you add the mandi tax, on top of it you add GST. It is not you work out your GST on 100, but on top of other taxes, you will have to pay GST. But when I say other taxes, don't include CGST, SGST, IGST. I'm talking about other taxes. There are still going to be other taxes. It's not all other taxes are done away with. Municipal level taxes will continue. Other fees will continue. For example, if you buy a motor vehicle, let's assume, the motor vehicle road transportation charges will be there. You will pay GST on including motor vehicle registration charges, RTO charges or whatever they call it as. Because it says anything you paid in relation to that supply as tax, fees or otherwise needs to be included before you work out the value for which you will pay GST. Okay? And then if there are FOC supplies to a related party, then again you will pay GST. For example, employee comes and stays in your own room. Then you will have to pay tax, GST. Today you may not be paying service tax. Because it is a related party. If you give free to a third party, it doesn't matter. But if you give to a related party or a distinct person, those definitions I'll talk about a little later, you will have to pay GST. So, this is the important point. There are also other confusing concepts like open market value and all. I will not get into it. It is not so relevant because you have tariff on the basis of which you will go. Discounts are allowed so long as you show in the invoice. So if you show in the invoice the discount, you can take a deduction for that discount and then pay GST only on the net value. If you have a pre-announced discount scheme or a discount offer which is there even before the supply is made, even if it is not shown in the invoice, but so long as you are able to relate to the invoice, you can claim a deduction of it. So one is whatever discount you show in the invoice, you are entitled to take the deduction. In situations where you are not showing in the invoice, but you are giving later on, for example, corporate customers, you give some discount. But if these are announced in advance, and you have also given a copy to your own tax authorities, basis which you compute your month end or year end discount to that particular customer, you can take a deduction of it. Okay, those two discounts are possible. And then finally, the ITC, input tax credit. I talked about ITC being the most important feature of GST. If this doesn't work well, we as well not have GST. It is not worth it to have a GST. But I told you various limitations on claiming ITC credit benefit, but it is not only that. If I tell you something, you will get really frightened. For you to take ITC, 4 things should happen. For example, you are buying material. For you to take ITC, 4 things have to happen. First, you should receive the invoice and the goods. Okay? Second, the vendor should have paid tax to the government. Okay? He should have paid tax. Third, you should have filed a return. Of course, I have included the receipt of goods also as part number 1. So there are 3, actually it is 4. Invoice, receipt of goods, vendor making the payment of tax, and you filing the return. This is called 4-way matching principle for you to be eligible to take credit. If a vendor he collects the tax and doesn't remit to the government, you cannot take credit. Okay, it doesn't stop with this. It goes beyond that. It says, vendor has also paid the tax to the government, but he has not reported it in the GST network. Then also you cannot take credit. Okay? So there is going to be this thing in GST network, something called matching. Okay, matching is the most innovative, most complex mechanism which has been put in place. It is, people draw anomaly parallel to matching like a 26 AS income tax related matching, but it is not so. This is a huge task. 26 AS happens once in a year, whereas this have to happen daily basis, if possible, if not monthly basis. And if matching doesn't happen, you will not be eligible for taking credit. For example, you buy a material from a vendor, you have paid him the tax, the vendor has also paid the tax, but he is a vendor who doesn't promptly report his transaction in GST network. Okay, so you go in the month end and then open the GST network, or rather you should open the GST network daily. That's how they have created the system. Somebody should be always sitting and looking at the GSTN. I'm telling you, you have to put at least some 2-3 people who always watch the GSTN to see what is coming and what is going. Otherwise you will miss many things. Because even e-way bill is another problem there. E-way bill I'll talk about little later. So GSTN, somebody has to see, okay, this vendor has uploaded his sales into the GSTN. Has he uploaded properly? If you have bought for 100 and he has uploaded 90, you will be getting credit only for 90. So then you will have to call him and tell him, boss, you have only uploaded 90, you will have to upload 100. Or some vendor doesn't even upload. Then you will have to call him and tell him you have not uploaded. And then there could be credit note, debit note, error, you received lesser quantity, rejections. So all of this will have to happen in the GST network. And then there is a 2 months process of matching which will happen, after which only your credit becomes final. Okay? So in the same example, the 90 is being charged and reported 90. Your purchase register showed 90. The auto-populated purchase register in GSTN your purchase register show 100. The auto-populated GST register shows 90. You upload your purchase register, it shows an error, 90 versus 100. So there has to be a process which has to happen between 10th of every month and 15th of every month, by which time you will have to reconcile this. It is possible that it may not happen even within that time. So it goes beyond 15th, you have filed that month return. Okay? Then what happens is, the GST system will send a communication to both of you asking you to do something about it. It will tell the vendor and you, there is a mismatch, please do something about it. But let's assume that vendor is not doing anything about it. And despite your repeated reminder, he is not doing anything. A notice will come to you saying that your GST on the 10 difference value, you will have to reverse. And you also don't do anything about it. In the 3rd month return, outward supplies of yours, the tax will be added along with interest. Automatically, you need not do anything. They will include that as 10 rupees as your sales. and then they will compute that 18 or 28 rupees on that, and then you will have to pay tax on that along with interest for enjoying that 2 months credit. But of course, after 2 months you have paid the tax, you have convinced the vendor to upload that balance 10 also, he has also uploaded a 5th month, you can take back the credit. The interest will also be refunded to you. So they have been at least fair on that point. But this is the mechanism they have put in place. So this credit taking is very important, but it is actually speaking not in your hands, it is all system driven. You will have to really sit in the system, day in and day out, see what is your vendor doing and what is your transporter doing, then only you can comply with the law. And if you are going to have lakhs and lakhs of invoices, many people will have lakhs and lakhs of invoices which have to be tracked. Humanly, it is impossible to do that. That's where comes the role of automation, the software solution, and that's where there's a big software, service providers who are cropping up, who want to bridge the gap and automate this process of matching. And of course, Quresh will also talk about it. There are enough vendors who are trying to pitch in, including EY and companies like Tally, SAP, so on and so forth. So this is the ITC. So ITC is, and then of course there is also, I don't know why they have kept it, within 180 days you will have to make the payment to the vendor, otherwise you are not eligible for taking the credit. Okay? Or you would have taken the credit, you will have to reverse along with interest. Okay, I have given below the dates by which you will file the returns. I will move forward because I think we are fairly lot more to cover. Okay, let's get into hotel specific little more closely. Let's understand current and then extrapolate to GST. So most of you must be familiar with this. Air conditioned restaurant service, from service tax point of view, you get an abatement, you pay on the balance 40%. The effective tax rate works out to 6%. You are entitled to take credit of input services and capital goods, except inputs under chapter 1 to 22. Basically, these are food related items. You are not entitled. So this is how I'm sure you are now paying taxes. Outdoor catering services. There is an abatement of 40%, effective tax rate works out to 9%. Similarly, there are restrictions on credit availment. Room rent, abatement 40%, effective tax rate 9%. Restrictions, credits on input services alone available, no other credit is available. Bank pay services, abatement 30%, you pay service tax on 70%. Effective tax rate works out to 10.5. Credit on input service and capital goods available except inputs under chapter. So this is today's service tax law. Okay, depending upon what service you are providing, you will be paying the tax appropriately. The only point I want to leave in this slide is that first and second, air conditioned restaurant service and outdoor catering service, it is not an abatement. It comes under something called valuation rules in Rule 2C, in service tax valuation rules. The third and the fourth comes under something called abatement notification number 25/2012. Why I am saying that is, 25/2012 is an abatement notification, and that notification is an exemption notification. The first two are not exemption, it comes under valuation principle. Okay, so this is how it is in service tax. VAT, Maharashtra VAT alone I have populated here. There could be different states, different VAT rates. Depending upon what product, the VAT rates change, 12.5 to 15. Sale of food in composite packages, 5, 15, 30, depending upon the slab that will come. So this is the VAT rates. Central excise, I don't know how many of you have central excise or how many of you know that there is a central excise also in hotels. If you are having manufacturing cakes, pastries, cookies, there is a central excise duty at 6%. If you are manufacturing in-house chocolate, there is a central excise at 12.5%. So there have been a big dispute going on that also, with several restaurants and hotels protesting against it. Central excise tax. Luxury tax. Maharashtra doesn't go on tariff basis, goes on actual basis, 10% typically. Depending upon to whom you are providing and what is the slab rate, your luxury tax rate will change. So this is the luxury tax. The luxury tax changes, for example, in Tamil Nadu it is 12.5% on the rack rate. So this is the luxury tax. So these are the 3-4 taxes which applies on hotels and restaurants. So this is typically what a hotel will have: procurement and sales. I will not spend time. We have got CGST, SGST enough explained. On your procurement and on your sales, depending upon from where and to whom you are selling, different taxes will be applicable. Let's get into more specifics. So from here, I'm going to talk about what we have seen in the last 3 days. Okay? Because enough have been talked about the rates. Is it good, bad, or ugly is what we need to take a call. Depending upon the player, different impacts will be felt. So we cannot take one call there. First and foremost is there is the schedule 2 in the GST which says that supply by way of or as part of any service or in any other manner whatsoever of goods, being food or any other article for human consumption or any drink other than alcoholic liquor for human consumption, where such supply of service is for cash, deferred payment or other valuable consideration, then it will be deemed to be a service. So there is no question of VAT on goods, service tax on service. Whenever you provide food as part of any service, banquet, outdoor catering, whatever you call as, or as part of even room, it will be deemed to be a service. So that confusion goes. But you will charge the 18% or 28% depending upon where you are falling. That's point number 1. If you are a restaurant with less than 50 lakh turnover, then aggregate turnover in that state, okay, for the preceding financial year, then you are eligible to opt for a composition rate of 5%, 2.5 to center, 2.5 to state. You can opt. No credits, you cannot recover it from the customer. Okay, 5%. Conditions are, he should be exclusively engaged only in the service, he cannot be doing any other service. If he does, then you are not eligible. Should not have any interstate supplies. You can have interstate purchases. You should not use the facility of e-commerce. I don't know if you have a Make My Trip or GoIbibo or whoever it is from whom you are booking, then you may not be qualifying. You should not be a manufacturer. I don't think you will be a manufacturer. If more than one registered person with same pen, then all of them across the country should opt for GS composition. Then only will be eligible. So these are the conditions. Depending upon whether your restaurant comes under this turnover, you can take a call whether you want to get into this or not. No tax can be collected. Option shall lapse once 50 lakh turnover breaches. Beyond that, you will get into the normal mode. Then comes the whole list of items which you have seen in the last 3 days. You have set of rates prescribed for room rentals and supply of food and eatery. Okay, we'll spend little time because very important. There is a serial number 17, 24, 25, 32, 36, 10 which are relevant to your business. Renting of hotels, inns, guest house, clubs, campsites or other commercial places meant for residential or lodging purposes having room tariff of rupees 1000 and above but less than 2500 per room per day, 12% with full ITC credit. Okay. So the question which I was trying to understand is 1000 rupees and 2500 rupees, is it rack rate or is it actual rent? Because it can vary, fluctuate. So for one day I could not understand what it could be, but eventually I think I got an answer. If you look at the last, highlighted exempt service definition, it says services by a hotel, inn, guest house, club or campsite by whatever name called for residential or lodging purposes having declared tariff of a unit of accommodation less than 1000 rupees per day or equivalent then it is exempt. So they use the word declared tariff in exemption. Whereas when they use tariff in the rate notification or rate schedule, they have not used the word declared tariff. So I would tend to think that this 12% or 18% or 28% which we have plotted there is on the actual rent and not on the declared tariff.